Hey guys, I got a brand new video for you today, and today we're looking at something a little different. I did a little portrait shoot with the GH5, and I went out while the cherry blossoms are in full bloom right now because you only get those for like a week or a week and a half here in Ontario, Canada, and I didn't want to miss that opportunity, so I went out with Casey and we went out and took some shots. And I just want to kind of go over my experience doing a portrait shoot with the GH5. Probably 90% of you that have bought the GH5 or are going to buy the GH5 is mostly just for video, and that's mainly the reason why I bought it. But there's going to be like 10% of you out there that want a camera that can do stills and video. And now that this is 20 megapixels, it kind of contends with, you know, the other cameras out there like the crop sensors and stuff like that. And yeah, I was kind of surprised at how this performed. And yeah, let's take a look at what we got. So I just want to jump into the files here and take a look at what we got. I underexposed some stuff, I overexposed some stuff, and I just shot how I would normally shoot. And I underexposed some of these shots, like this one here, just to see what kind of dynamic range we have to work with, what it's like to pull shadows with a micro four thirds sensor. Obviously, this isn't too hard because I was at a lower ISO. Really, all this video is a test for me, as well as sharing my experience with you guys. So I'm gonna open up this one here, 4515 into Photoshop. I know you guys love Lightroom, but I'm using Photoshop. All right, so looking at this shot here, you can see I shot it wide open f1.7, 1/3200th of a second, ISO 200, and obviously 43 millimeters or 42.5, whatever this lens is, which is basically an 85 millimeter. But yeah, if I'm gonna edit this photo, I wanna bring the exposure up a tiny bit, pull the shadows out a tiny bit, drop the highlights back a bit, bump the clarity a tiny bit. And I kind of want to bring this more into the pink tones. I can even bump the exposure a bit more. In here you can see that you've got the different styles coming off the GH5. So you're like your Cineleg D, which I would never use for photos. That's more for video. But I'm just going to leave it in the standard profile. Yeah, let's open this up. Zoom in a bit here and see what kind of detail levels we're getting. I gotta fix this, it's like a little bit of makeup or something. And she was wearing her sunglasses before this, so she's got the sunglass impression here. Just gonna erase that out for a second. But yeah, it's looking pretty sharp. It's not bad. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really have to do too much to edit this photo. It's really good the way it is. I don't really have a lot of experience with micro four thirds, so I was kind of nervous that I wouldn't be able to get the same shallow depth of field. And obviously with this lens, it's not too bad. Anyway, let's take a look at some other edited photos. So yeah, I basically shot all this stuff with eye detection, face detection, and it worked out really well. Nailed the eye pretty much every single time, and I was pretty happy with how this turned out. Even how windy it was. This is a really, really windy day. If we open this file up, the eye should be pretty much perfectly in focus, and that was with hair whipping in front of her face too. So here I just want to show how the eye detection and face detection works in a situation where there's wind kind of whipping through her hair, kind of covering her eyes and stuff like that. Also wanted to show how fast it connects going from the background back to the face. And yeah, it does a really good job. So I just want to quickly touch on 6K photo. I tried one here, I'm just trying to find it on the camera. But I actually shot a 6K photo series, which is basically just kind of like a video that it shoots, and you can extract an 18 megapixel JPEG from it. So basically you can just scroll through the frames here and find one you want. Unfortunately, there's no autofocus in this mode, so I had to manually focus this as she walked towards me. And you can basically just save it out as a JPEG. Right, so as you can tell, the image quality is actually really good coming off this camera, especially with this lens, the 42.5mm f1.7. And I didn't really go into too much of the autofocus modes. As you can tell, I really only use single point and face detection. And since I was doing a portrait shoot, face detection was the main reason why I was testing it. But there's obviously all the other autofocus modes like the 225 area, custom multi, tracking, single point, pinpoint, and different things like that. So let's look at this in a controlled environment where I always test out all my lenses in the kitchen, just doing point to point between two things that are about I don't know, 20 feet away from each other just to take a look at how well it does. I shot them all with the lens wide open and kind of in a slightly low light situation. It doesn't look like it, but I was still at ISO 1600, and you can kind of see how well this thing actually does focus. So I thought it'd be kind of cool just to show you guys what the autofocus modes are like in a controlled environment. First, we're going to just try single point, and it's actually really quick. Next, I want to try pinpoint. Seems to have a little bit more trouble on closer objects. Then custom multi. I made my area size a little bit smaller. I tried 225 area. And I found this didn't work too good for close subjects as well. Then I tried tracking. Basically, it just locks on to the area you first lock focus on, and it just follows it around. Next, I wanted to try the Metabone Speed Booster with the 18-35 Sigma Art lens, just to show you what it's like. All the same focusing modes work really well, and it's actually pretty good. Anyway, when I first got the camera, I actually took some portrait shots with the Metabones adapter and the 18-35, so check them out. So my final thoughts, as you can tell, this camera is actually really good at autofocusing in photos. Obviously you've seen the autofocusing in video and it's not that great, but in photos, especially with this lens, there's obviously newer lenses that are probably even faster than this. I would say that this camera is probably as fast as the Sony a6300, which is the exact same autofocus speed that's in the a6500, and I didn't expect that. I didn't expect it to do so well. Even in lower light situations, it wasn't too bad. I wouldn't say it's as good as something like the Fuji X-T2 if we're looking at mirrorless cameras. Obviously, DSLRs are slightly better at autofocus in low light. But yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. Didn't expect it to be that good. And so yeah, if you're shooting photos with this camera, the autofocus system's fast. You've got the new 20 megapixel sensor in it, so you've obviously got way more room for cropping or having just more detail in the shot as it is. Decent dynamic range for Micro Four Thirds camera. I haven't tried any of the Olympus cameras, but I hear they're equally as good, if not better, when it comes to a Micro Four Thirds sensor. So yeah, you don't really have to worry about this camera if you're planning on using it for photos. It's really good, and obviously you already know the video is amazing on it. So it's a pretty good all-around camera for the price, and I don't think I could switch to shooting photos with it. I'm obviously using it for video now. Not right now, I'm using the Sony a6300, but I normally use this for video, but I needed this to be in the video so you guys could see it. I can't switch to this to shooting photos. I still love my Fuji system. The Fuji glass, the Fuji colors, everything about Fuji just suits my needs, and this won't be my main photo camera, but it's definitely gonna be my main video camera. And yeah, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you dislike this video, give it a thumbs down twice, and I'll see you in the next one.